Morning. Excuse me. Good morning. It's great to see you. And today we get to do one of my very favorite things in the whole world. We get to finish something. It's kind of weird. I love to finish things. It's just a quirk of mine. I love the feeling of finishing a task or finishing the school year, finishing a workout, finishing a task. Even just finishing the day. I love going to bed. It's like my favorite time of the day. But this is even weird too. I even like things like I like finishing a bag of chips, or I like finishing a carton of yogurt. I love the feeling of just finishing it off. And it might be because I also love starting new things. So when you finish something, it means that you get to start something new. So I'm super excited about finishing 1 Peter. It's been awesome. I have loved it. And I am excited to start something new, which we're doing next week. And you'll find out more about that as we go, but very excited about that. So we have made it all the way through 1 Peter together. I hope you have learned a little bit here and there. I definitely have learned a lot as we've been going through. And in this very last chapter, chapter 5, Peter is again addressing some specific people. And again, none of them are you. But we can learn by still paying attention and finding out what God is saying to this specific group of people. So in 1 Peter 5, Peter is talking to the elders. Now, who are elders? What are elders? Well, elder, the word elder, can simply refer to people who are older. So when you hear, respect your elders, it means that you honor those who are older than you. You give up your seat. You stand when they walk in a room. If you have grandparents, right, that's a good practice. Or just people who are elderly or older, to honor them. The Bible also uses that word to refer to church leaders. Okay, so usually the leaders in the church are somewhat older, perhaps. Jeff's gray hair qualifies him to be an older. So there's some overlap there. So Peter is talking to the leaders of the church specifically, and they also happen to be older. So he says to them, to shepherd or take care of the church, and he refers to them as the flock of God. Okay, the church is referred to as the flock. Now, a flock of what? It's not a flock of geese. It's a I guess that's a gaggle of geese. Anyway, it's not a flock of whatever. It is a flock of sheep. Okay, we are referred to as sheep. I don't know how you feel about that. Sheep, aren't the smartest animals in the world, but that is how God describes us. We're described as sheep. And so Jesus is the chief shepherd, right? He's the true shepherd who looks over all of us, but he's also appointed little shepherds, okay? And these are the humans who he has put in responsibility over his local churches. So that's what our elders are. They are not the chief shepherd, the head, the very lead, but they are appointed by God through his providence to provide leadership and care for us, for the flock. Okay, so he is saying that you are a little lamb, you are a precious little lamb, and that while it is primarily your parents' responsibility to take care of you and help you learn about God and train you and disciple you, there are also church leaders who love you and are praying for you and seeking God about the best way to help you grow. Even just this week, a group of your leaders met and prayed that God would give us wisdom and love and care and help us to navigate this season that we're in, so that what's very best for you and for me and for all of us, that we would thrive as this little flock. So then Peter says to the younger people, or the non-elders, and that is you, okay? That definitely includes you. He says to be subject to these elders. Now, we've already talked about submission quite a lot in this book, 1 Peter. He talked about submission to governing authorities. We looked at that, to our parents, and then wives to husbands. We talked about that. So this is just another extension of the same idea. It's not anything new. He's just saying another way that we practice that submission is to our elders, our persons in places of spiritual leadership in our lives. And then Peter has a word for all of us. He says, now all of you, okay, leaders, non-leaders, old, young, every single person, no matter your job, your gender, who you are, he says all of us are to be clothed in humility. Okay, that is what is to characterize our lives, our words, our mindset, our speech. Everything that we do is to be characterized by humility. Now, what does that mean? We talked a little bit about having a mindset. And I think that's what Peter's talking about. He's saying have this mindset. A mindset is how you set your mind. You can set your mind on, I'm the most important person. The way that I want to do it is right. Everybody needs to fall in line with what I think. Or you can have your mind set on humility, which is, you know what? I have this certain preference or I have this certain way that I like to do things, but I'm going to submit to those around me and do what I think is best for them instead. Okay? That is the mindset of humility. And then Peter tells us why we should do this, and it is a very, very big why. Okay? Sometimes when there's something that we're supposed to do, it's very important for us to know the very big why, okay? If your parents, for example, told you not to play in the street, okay? That's probably a rule maybe at your house, not to play in the street. They might tell you, if you said, well, why? They might tell you because if you are near or in the street, a car could very well come along and hit you and you would die, okay? That's a big why, you know? If you ask your parents, why do I have to wash my hands all the time? Well, there's kind of a big virus and we're not afraid, but we want to be cautionary. There's a very big why. Okay, the big why on why we should be clothed in humility is because God opposes the proud, but he gives grace to the humble. Okay, so that means that when we are proud, God is actually against us. Now, remember that God is like in charge of everything. He created everything. He's in control of everything. He's the one that runs the universe. He is the one who has all power. He can say the word and the mountains would crumble. Okay, that big, mighty, powerful God, I do not want to be against me. Okay, if it's me versus God, I don't have a chance. Okay, I want to be on his team. I want to have him for me, whatever it takes to have God with me, to have his favor on me, to have his power at work through me in my life. I want to do whatever that takes. And Peter is telling us the way to have God for you and to give you grace is to walk in humility. Okay, pride is like God repellent. Okay, if you've ever put on bug repellent to keep all the bugs away, pride is God repellent. It's like spraying on something that says God goes, nope, not going near that one. I am going to be against that one. So Peter says to humble yourselves so that God can lift you up. Rather than going, I want to be on top and I want to have my way and I want to make sure my voice is heard and that I can do what I want to do, I'm going to trust that God will lift me up. In due time, I can humble myself because God will look out for me. Then Peter makes an interesting kind of surprising link between humility, humbling yourself, and casting your anxieties on God. Okay, these are actually linked because when we're proud, we tend to think that we have to take care of all of our troubles and problems by ourselves. And it's an enormous weight to bear. Okay, we think I've got to handle this, I've got to take care of this. And so we become very anxious and worried. He says instead, recognize that God is God and you are really little. And so he tells us to cast all of our anxieties onto him. And then he tells us another why. Why should we do that? Because he cares for you. Even though you are small and I am small and God is big, he cares for you. And you need to know that whatever it is that is on your heart or you feel afraid or anxious or upset, anything that's going on in your little heart, God cares. There is nothing that is too small for you to cast onto him and trust him with, okay? Then he says, again, to be sober-minded. Now, we talked about this, again, a couple chapters ago. Sober-minded means to be very careful about what you're thinking and how you're thinking. Be considerate about that. And because, and then he gives us another really big why, okay? He says, because the devil is roaring like a lion, prowling around, roaring like a lion, seeking someone to devour, okay? The enemy wants to devour us. He does not want us to love God and thrive and flourish. And so Peter tells us how to defeat him. We don't have to be all scared or, be freaked out about this. He just says, resist him, firm in your faith, because, and then he gives us this word of comfort. He says, Christians all over the world, are facing difficulties just like you. And it's so tempting when we're going through something that's hard, at least for me, it's so tempting to think I'm all alone. I'm the only one going through this. I'm the only one who feels like this. I'm the only one that has to struggle with this. And it's not true. Peter is saying there are followers of Jesus, even children, followers of Jesus, all over this world who are facing the same difficulties that you are. The entire world is facing difficulties, and so you're not alone. So don't let the enemy dupe you into thinking that you are lonely. And then God promises us that after we've gone through this difficult trial, he himself will restore and confirm and strengthen and establish us. So Peter is saying this isn't going to last forever, right? The Bible says the sorrow may last for the night, but joy comes in the morning. This too shall pass. Okay? Don't give up. Don't despair. God will make things right in the end. And then Peter says goodbye, and he sums everything up by saying, stand firm in the faith. God's kindness to us is free. Stand firm in the grace of God. Excuse me. The grace of God is free. And so he says to stand firm in it, and promises us that God will be with us during difficult seasons. So that is 1 Peter. I have loved going through 1 Peter with you. Thank you so much for following along. I'm excited for what is next, and we will see you next week.